They walked slowly across the valley, Greybeard leaning on Teo's shoulder, until they reached the foot of the limestone cliffs. Here Greybeard told Teo what to do. "Listen carefully," he said, "and do as I say." Teo stood quietly, waiting for the old man to catch his breath. He could not believe this was really happening. "Go up to those cliffs above the camp and wait," said Greybeard. "As soon as darkness comes, climb down the narrow path to the entrance of the big cave." Greybeard took the deerskin bag from his shoulder. He reached in and pulled out a large seashell filled with tallow. In the center was a peat moss wick. The old shaman's hands were trembling as he gave it to Teo. "Here is your lamp," he said. "Light it from the endless flame and begin your journey into the cave." Even as Greybeard spoke, Teo could feel a cold chill creeping up the back of his neck. He wasn't the chosen one, yet he would be going into the secret cavern. It was the greatest of all taboos. But the old man brushed away Teo's doubts with a wave of his hand. "Follow the main tunnel until you come to the place where the passage divides." Greybeard taps the boy on the shoulder, the same side as his lame foot. "Stay on this side, and you will not go wrong. When you reach the secret cavern, it will be deserted. Begin your drawings of the great bull at once." Teo's mind was filled with hundreds of questions. So much had happened in such a short time. Greybeard leaned over, stifling a spasm of coughs. Then he straightened up and looked at Teo. Carefully, he draped the deerskin pouch over the boy's shoulder. "Here," he said. "This is yours now. Inside it, you will find the graven stones and all the other magic you will ever need." Teo stepped back, stunned. But Greybeard continued. "Draw and paint as many longhorns as you can. Then when I come with the clan hunters, they will see how true your images are, and they will know why I've chosen you as the new cave painter." The old man stopped again. His breathing was hard and wheezing. "Go now, and remember what I have told you." Teo watched the old man walk away, slouched over, coughing badly. He disappeared into the dark oak wood forest. Now, the boy was alone with his thoughts and his doubts. Teo left Ram in the little cave and told him to stay. "You stay!" Then he climbed up the cliffs and walked along the top until he was above the entrance to the cave. Below him, fires blazed, and he could see the camp of the clan people. He stayed in the shadows, sitting with his back against an old pine tree. As he waited, he just worried about old Greybeard. He'd never seen him this thin and weak. Seemed like forever until the sun finally set behind the purple mountains and the crickets began to chirp, 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 and a pair of nightjars called and swooped overhead. Teo got up, his hands shaking, his legs unsteady. He curled his bad foot around his tree limb crutch and started down the narrow ledge leading to the big cave. Far below he could see the clan hunters. Tiny figures dancing around a big fire. Their chanting and singing drifted up to him in the damp night air. They were celebrating the coming hunt of the Longhorns. Some of the men wore bison robes, their heads covered with antlers and horns, bracelets of shells and bones around their legs and ankles jangled as they danced. Others wore masks carved with images of bears or devils to ward off evil spirits. Teo moved cautiously, edging his way along, hiding behind clumps of stunted evergreens growing out of the side of the cliff. Slowly, he made his way closer, glad that the clan people were busy celebrating and they would not see him. He had just reached the cave entrance when suddenly he saw a young hunter climbing up the ledge to tend to the endless flame. Quickly, Teo moved back into the shadows, pressing himself up against the cliff wall. With the dwelling slowness, the young hunter performed his task. He threw handfuls of wood onto the fire, sending up a shower of sparks that lit up in the darkness. Teo held his breath because he was in plain view as he shrank back against the side of the white cliff. Yet neither the hunter nor the clan people seemed to notice him. As soon as the hunter was gone, Teo crept up and lit his towel lamp from the endless flame. He took one last look around and started into the cave. He was familiar with the large room just within the entrance. He had spent many winters there. 'Twas empty now, save for the flickering light coming from the endless flame. It was gray and cold. Towards the back of the room was the entrance to the long twisting passageway that led to the secret cavern. Teo hesitated. He had never been beyond this point, and it gave him an eerie feeling to step past the opening. Yet, holding his lamp high, he limped along on his wooden crutch. He started down the dark tunnel. It was damp and gloomy. Flickering lamp cast wavering shadows on the rough gray walls. Except for the occasional sound of dripping water, there was a cold stillness like death. Teo shuffled on, trying to hurry. He wanted to paint as many images as possible before Greybeard came in with the hunters. Soon the tunnel became narrower, with turns. Once, when the ceiling became too low, he got down on his hands and knees, pushing his lamp ahead of him. Then, at an abrupt turn in the tunnel, Teo's heart jumped. A huge cave lion glared down at him. It swayed back and forth as he moved his lamp. He realized he was only looking at the lone painting done by an earlier cave painter on the wall in the hidden tunnel. He continued on and soon came to the place where the passage divided into two corridors. He stopped, undecided, and his heart sank. He couldn't remember which shoulder the shaman had touched. With nagging doubt, he chose to go to the left. A dank, musty odor filled the air, and the trickling sound of dripping water echoed throughout the tunnel. Slowly, Teo limped along, holding his lamp ahead of him. And then he stopped. He was sure he had made a wrong turn. Hurriedly, he started back, almost running, stumbling in his haste, searching for the other path. He'd come to a second opening. Was this the one leading to the secret cavern? He wasn't sure. He felt the dampness in his palms and his hands. His heart was pounding furiously. More confused than ever, he started down a new tunnel. He'd only gone a short distance when a sharp hissing sound broke the silence, and he was left in total darkness. A drip of water from the dripping ceiling had snuffed out his lamp. For a long moment, Teo stood petrified, numb with fear. He threw down the useless lamp. With a trembling hand, began feeling his way along the damp walls, totally blind. He groped through the blackness, not even sure if he was headed in the right direction.